Hi guys, if anyone is watching that doesn't know me, I'm Josh, although sometimes people call me Tilley, which is my last name. I'm graduating this semester with a degree in chemical and biomolecular engineering with minors in biology and biotechnology, as long as plans don't change. I'll be starting work in June as an automation engineer with Merck in Durham. I wasn't sure what would be best to share in these few minutes, but wanted to take a few moments to highlight what God has done in my life during college. Entering into college, I didn't know what I wanted to study here, but I was excited for the opportunity to study a topic of my choosing, to have new adventures, and to be more independent. Despite my initial excitement, it didn't take long for me to realize that the classes here can actually be pretty difficult, and if you aren't practiced at making new friends, college can become a crowded but lonely place. For that reason, I consider myself lucky to have been invited to a large group with RUF by Daniel Dodd before I ever came to college, and more fortunate still to have met some of the other people like Jordan Brooks and Chris Peter, who encouraged me to come again after that first large group on Lee Field. Although I was initially only attending these events because I didn't have much to do other than homework, and I had been told I should join a campus ministry, I was drawn further into RUF out of a curiosity to understand the community here, which was unlike any that I had previously experienced. The care and joy that were openly expressed by some of the people in RUF at that time were surprising to me, so I accepted a few invitations and began attending other open invite events. This led me to attend small groups, board game nights, movie Mondays, frisbee Fridays, racquetball games, the climbing wall, and any other number of things. The friends that I made in that time went on to impact a wide range of decisions throughout the rest of college, including housing, classes, my major, and other important things. Through the time spent getting to know people in RUF, God worked to show me what a community of believers could look like through the fellowship that I experienced, kindness and generosity that people showed to each other, and the unity that was present through the shared beliefs despite personal differences. Seeing God's love for his people reflected through the lives of other believers helped me to understand better God's love for us and the message of the gospel. As college continued, God used the voices in that community to point me back to him in other ways. Consistently hearing and reflecting on truth with friends from RUF gradually shaped my perspective and understanding in many important areas. For me, this included topics like the value of God's work and creativity, God's view of us through Christ, as well as our identity as believers, trusting God with my future, ways that we can reflect God's love to the world, and probably other things that I'm forgetting to mention. The things that I just listed out are all important ideas, but what I hope to have conveyed is that in my experience, God often helped me to understand those areas better using the people from the Christian community around me. Although it may feel like a risk at first, I would encourage you to find ways to be authentically involved in Christian community, not only for your benefit, but also for the benefit of others. Taking action to develop relationships and to learn about God with other believers creates an opportunity for significant impact in our lives that would otherwise not be present. For me, the input from people in the RUF community led to areas of growth and understanding that I likely would not have encountered alone. It is my hope that you would also allow the opportunity for God to lead you in this way, by committing to spending time in community, or by inviting someone new into your existing areas of fellowship. Thanks for listening, stay safe, and don't let the coronavirus keep you from safely engaging with the people in your life.
Well, 5 years ago, I went to my first RUF senior night, and I thought to myself, after every single speech started the same way. 30 minutes ago, I started writing the speech. 5 minutes ago, I started writing the speech. Some even admitted to making it up on the spot. And at that moment, I thought to myself, you know what, Emmett? I'm not going to wait till the last minute to write my speech. I'm going to plan it out. I'm going to have a script. I'm going to be ready. Well, as of January, I kind of was. But then coronavirus hit, and my plan went out the window. So, here I am. The speech I wrote about 5 minutes ago. I remember freshman year of RUF. It was one of the biggest freshman classes they'd seen in a long time. And as part of that class, that gave me lots and lots of opportunities. And I used them to pull pranks. And I have a lot of very fond memories of those years. One of my favorite pranks was when I got together with a couple of fellow freshmen from RUF, and we got jars of mayonnaise, and we put pudding in them. And to change up putting on this. Another one of my favorite pranks was when we got together and filled about 6 or 7 Windex bottles with blue Gatorade, and then got together for the freshman class and just started like squirting it in our mouth during large group. And I think that's the one that actually got me in trouble with Chuck, because next week he sat me down and told me to stop doing that during large group. And so that was kind of the highlight of my freshman year. Sophomore year, I did what most people said they did in their senior speeches. I moved into a RUF dorm. I think it was Lee 203. And that was definitely a big part of my sophomore year. I remember hanging out with Josh Tilley and my roommate Hampton Clark, and just all the time we had together. And it was always fun because lots of other people in RUF knew where we lived, and they would come by, drop in, say hi, and make fun of us while we tried to study. And I think one of my fondest memories is me and Hampton singing a duet while we were doing our homework. And the people across the hall were just trying to be inconspicuous as they peeked in our door, and also trying to contain their laughter at our terrible singing. If you have the chance, I highly recommend living in an RUF hall. I should note that RUF senior night, it's not about me. It's not about Chuck Askew. It's not about whoever's up next on the lineup. It's about God and maybe how He's worked in our lives. And so to that end, I'd like to share how He's worked in mine. I grew up in a gospel-believing household. I always knew God, and I said my prayers before bed every night. But I didn't really have this personal relationship with Him. Coming to RUF and being more on my own and independent, I've come to rely on Him more day by day, and to realize that He is a relationship God. He wants relationships with us. And over the years, He's worked through RUF and through friends and people I know, and He's worked through them to bring me closer to Him and for me to get to know Him better. And that's how He has been working in my life.
Hey guys, for those who don't know me, I'm Robert Foster. I'm a senior majoring in mechanical engineering, and I'll be graduating in May and starting work in Durham as an associate distribution engineer at a company called Leidos. I'll be talking for a couple of minutes about the way God has worked in my life during my time in college. I knew coming into college that I was planning to join a campus ministry, but I wasn't very familiar with most of the options. I initially came to RUF after meeting one of the former interns, Chris Peter, through one of my suite mates at the time, and I kept attending at first because of my relationships with that suite mate and my roommate, both of whom quickly became involved in RUF and encouraged me to do the same. Through the time I spent at RUF and the relationships I formed, I began to see the importance of having a strong Christian community to surround me and help me grow in my faith. This was something that, although I had somewhat experienced at my church back home, I had not really experienced with a group of people so close to me in age and who were going through the same stages of life and challenges that I was. Being in a Christian community throughout college helped me understand things like trusting in God's plan for me rather than worrying about myself, showing grace and love to others through different forms of ministry, and the value of spending time with others focusing on the application of God's word to my life. RUF has also provided me great opportunities to live with other Christians and be a central part of the community. During my freshman year, I lived with 2 former RUF students, as I mentioned earlier, which was a great way to get connected without the pressure of entering the community alone. During my sophomore year, I lived in a suite with several people who I met during my freshman year through RUF. Since my junior year, I've lived in Atwater, one of the RUF houses, with several different roommates who have been a lot of fun to live with. Ironically, I actually told my freshman roommate after attending an RUF event at Atwater that there was no way I'd ever live there, yet I've now spent about 2.5 years in that very house. It's funny how God's plan can differ from your own.
Living in Atwater has provided me the opportunity to be very involved in the RUF community by hosting events such as game nights, movie nights, bonfires, watch parties for sports, and more. I actually initially didn't want to live in Atwater because of my introverted nature and not wanting to open up my residence to hosting so many events, but this experience has been a lot of fun and helped me realize how beneficial it can be to sacrifice your own desires for what is good for God's community. This has also been great for me because it has forced me to leave my comfort zone and realize that my own wishes should not be my priority over God's plan. This has been one of many forms of ministry which I've seen during my time in RUF. Others include the small groups that several students so graciously lead, one-on-one meetings with interns or even just with other students, creating opportunities like intramural sports teams for people to play on, and mission trips to serve others outside our community. RUF has not only served me with so much of these kinds of ministry, it has shown me so many ways to serve others and how ministry showcases God's love and brings us closer to Him. I'd like to close by encouraging all of you to stay connected. If you're fairly new to RUF, I highly recommend staying involved in this or another campus ministry, as having a community of believers around you is the best way to grow your faith and understand God's work in your life here in college. If you're not new, I hope you'll continue to stay here and stay involved and find ways to impact this group and make it a fun and welcoming place for people to come together in Christ. I'm thankful for those who did this for me, not only during my first year, but throughout my time in RUF, and I hope this ministry continues to provide that opportunity for others. Thank you for listening, stay safe, and God bless.
Hi, my name is Anna Long, and if you don't know me, I'm a graduating senior at NC State. And funny enough, I must have had a hunch or something in January that something like this was going to happen, because I wrote my speech already way back in January. So if I've learned anything in college or in RUF, it's that God is present through all your seasons. And like every other college freshman, adjusting is really tough. You're in this weird place of, I don't really feel like I fit in here, but I also can't really go home, so I guess I have to stay. At least that's how it was for me. I so desperately longed for community, and I kept reaching for community in what ended up being dead ends. I went through so many heartaches, slowly drifting away from some of my closest friends and family, struggling to find my purpose, you name it. And my community didn't really show up in college until my second semester when I joined RUF. And sophomore year probably was one of my favorite years of college. I had never felt so connected to people and felt so connected to community. And it was probably also the first year that I really understood what having a relationship with God and being surrounded by a Christian community was like. And trust me, it's great. Being vulnerable was really difficult, but it was really rewarding. God calls us to depend on Him, but also to depend on the community that He's given us. And while freshman year was one of the hardest of my life, it was hard because I felt alone. So when similar heartache and loss and stress and trusting in God for my future came along during my senior year, God and His community was right there to pick me up. And it was really beautiful. This year's probably been one of the hardest in my life, but it was also one of the most beautiful times in my life. And I've never been happier despite all the pain that I've gone through. If I have any advice to give you, it's to take time to invest. Invest in your community, invest in campus life, invest in RUF or some other campus ministry that really floats your boat. But invest in your relationship with God. Find your hiking buddies, your backpacking friends, your dancing friends, and your running buddies, your late night conversations. Find your friends to jam with. And find friends to open your heart to and be vulnerable with. But share their burdens too. It'll mean more than you can ever imagine.
Hi, I'm Grayson. This is my senior speech. For those of you that don't know me, I am a philosophy major here at State, and I am graduating in 3 years as opposed to 4, so I've only got a 3-year little trip. Before I start, I want to give a little shout out to my roommates, Durs and Joe. They made this video look real cool, so we'll see how that goes. So I want to start this speech by talking about how I have always looked forward to my senior speech. I have thought from my first senior night how much I really wanted to have my own senior speech. I remember listening and being really inspired about hearing their stories and how college has really shaped people's lives. I thought it was the coolest thing, and I spent half the time always thinking about what it is that they were saying, but also what it is that I might want to be saying. Every senior night, it would change. I feel like the people in my life were different, and the stories were different, and the classes I was taking were different. And so it felt like every senior speech that I wanted to make was a different one. And so I had a hard time figuring out what I wanted to say tonight. And I think that the one similarity between all of them was relationship. I think that I always wanted to include people in my senior speech, that the way college has really shaped me has been more about the people around me than the things happening or the classes I'm taking or the things I'm learning. I think that sometimes the things I'm learning were helpful and good for what I'm doing, but primarily I want to look back at college and think about the people I got to spend it with more than the things I learned. I think that philosophy was a really cool major to take because a lot of people would always ask me, what you want to do with philosophy? But I always thought that was the wrong question. I always thought it had more to do with who I want to be as a person. And so having these 3 years to dedicate myself to thinking about that question, where I think that most days I really would come home from classes and think about how do I actually live rightly in the world as a Christian. And it was a very practical approach. I've been thinking a lot about what is it that it actually looks like to be walking with God and what it means to be living correctly according to the Bible. It's a very fine line, and there's a lot of screw-ups. I think that the reason Christianity's been so attractive to me is definitely because of forgiveness. There's a lot of mistakes that are made, and I think that that is something that we should keep in mind. And with that relationship, I think that that's where I made a lot of mistakes with my relationships. I think that there were a lot of broken ones, but also a lot of good ones. I really loved that it was something that I got to jump into and experience fully. It wasn't that I sat back and wished that I would have done something. Sometimes I went a little too far and definitely made some mistakes, but I'm glad that I rather jumped as opposed to sitting on the edge waiting for something to happen. And so I really think that college is a great time to explore who you are and to figure out what you're going to be like more than what you're going to do. I also think that it's just a fun time to have friends and goof off. I'm normally not this serious, and I feel like I'm normally telling a lot of jokes, so that's where a lot of my mistakes come in. I think that's about all that I have to say, and so I'm just really grateful that I get to do this senior speech, but I'm also really sad that I don't get to say more. I wish I could talk about the different ways and the different people that I've gotten to shape, and I feel like every semester was a different chapter in my life. And so I do encourage you guys each to take the chapters as they come and be okay with the changing of the chapters. Sometimes it feels like you really want to hold on to what is, and it passing, and it's hard. But I think that being able to hold loosely onto what you love is a great part of it. And so, thanks so much. I'm glad I could have been a part of RUF.
Hi everybody. If we haven't met, I'm Geneva Collins. I will be graduating in May with a degree in mathematics, so that's exciting. I joined RUF day one, the cookout on Lee Field, heard Chuck talk like before my classes even started. I had this great roommate who had these cool brothers who were like, yeah, RUF's great, come join. And I thought, what the heck, let's do it. And I've gone ever since. Probably the best decision I've made in college. And I am so grateful for my time here. It's been incredible. Every semester, watching all of the seniors do their senior speeches, I always imagined myself being up here and, well, I guess not here, but in Riddick 301 with the nice podium, but I wouldn't need it because I would have memorized my speech, and it would have been the most eloquent one, and instead we're here, and you get the ramblings of a stressed out, exhausted, sad, lonely person who hasn't left her house in 3 weeks, except to go to Food Lion. So, bear with me. Rather than getting 3 things that I think I did right in college, you're going to get 3 things I wish I did better in college. Number 1 is you need friends to keep you accountable. I love my friends, and they have been able to be that for me. But only when I tell them things. Guys, you can't have close friends if you don't tell them what's going on in your life and what's going on in your head. And that's definitely been one thing that I've learned. I've had the greatest friends who have told me things that were hard to hear. I hate it. I really hate being told I'm wrong. But in order to be right, you need to be told when you're wrong. It changes things, and it brings people closer together, and it helps you become more like Christ and how he wants you to be. So talk to people and be accountable. And number 2 is you can't just have friends, though. Something my brother's been telling me since day 1 is that mentors are so important. You need somebody who is outside of the college experience and outside of the 18 to 22-year-old range, who can just be honest with you and tell you their experience and listen to yours and offer godly wisdom that maybe you can't think of and maybe your friends don't know. Number 3, life is not about you. It's really hard to believe that right now because all of college tells you either, on the one hand, life is about your future. You need to do whatever is best for your future. Study hard, take hard classes, do hard things, do the best you can to prepare for your future. And then the other side is like, life is about your experiences. You need to grow. You need to do all of these things. Enjoy yourself. Go and have the college experience because you deserve it. And neither of those are right. And really, life is about God and his glory and his intense love for humanity and how we can be a part of that. And that's hard to keep in mind right now when everything's telling you otherwise. And I'm really grateful for the ways that I've gotten to be a part of that through serving RUF, through ministry team, and through serving my community through the service trips for spring break. It's been amazing to be a part of who God is and what he's doing in this world, but that only comes when you're not serving yourself, when you're not putting yourself first. And I could have been better about that. I want my life to look like serving him and doing whatever brings him glory, and that's what I'm preparing for in college. Yeah, I need to figure it out, but I think that's what it is. And only he can make us better at it. So I hope that these things are an encouragement and these ramblings are not terrible. Also, thank you so much to everybody at RUF who's made this such a special time and place, and wow, all of you are so cool and special, and I love you guys so much. I'm gonna miss you.
Hey everyone. For those who do not know me, I am Andrew Hall. I'm a master's student in textile chemistry. I want to share with you tonight my time in RUF. My first 2 years of college were the roughest, and these were the years I was not in RUF. I came to NC State not knowing anyone and was trying to hold on to a relationship from high school. My days were spent going to class, playing video games, trying to hold on to that relationship. I was living life for myself, closing myself off from others and from God.
Hi, if you don't know me, my name is Anders, and Lord willing, I'll have a master's in computer science in a couple weeks. If I had to summarize what the Lord has done in my life in the past 5 years, it would be that He taught me to study. Not how to study, there are YouTube videos for that, but what to study. I have 3 points, and we'll fly through the first 2, not because they're not important, but because of how much I want to talk about the third. So here we go. First, study for your classes. We're here as students, and we're called to work heartily as for the Lord and not for men. So studying diligently for your classes is a sign of faithful stewardship. One thing I do want to make clear is that faithful stewardship is neither dismissive nor obsessive. Let me say that again. Faithful stewardship is neither dismissive nor obsessive. For some of you, that might be your one takeaway from this speech. Second, study God's Word. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. If the goal of this life is to glorify God and to enjoy Him forever, how could we do so without knowing who He is? God has revealed Himself to us through His Word, so it stands to reason that we should spend time in it. There are also lots of great books about God and His Word that are worth your time. Hit me up if you ever need a book recommendation. Whether you're feeling extra hip and relevant, or super cerebral, or just especially depraved, I probably have something for you. Third, study your relationships. Relationships are complicated, and you knew that. You know that a relationship takes time and effort and cultivating. It's intricate. It's like a dance. Well, I guess I wouldn't know, but I imagine it's like a dance, and different people dance differently. People are not like matrices. Once you learn how to solve the eigenvalues for one matrix, you can just follow the same steps to solve all eigenvalues of any other matrix. People are different. There is not a one-size-fits-all formula for a successful relationship. One joke might make a friend roll on the floor laughing, and it might make another friend come and punch you. A sarcastic comment might be thought of as playful and lighthearted by one, but it might be received as deeply hurtful by another. On top of that, people are broken and messy. I know because I'm broken and messy, but God loves me, and He puts people in my life to show me His love in ways I didn't know were possible. So if you ever feel like you're broken and messy, know that God loves you, and He's put people in your life to show you His love in tangible ways. And on the other hand, He's put you in other people's lives to love them in their brokenness and messes as well. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. It's not. And it's not supposed to be. We're sinners living in a sinful world, learning to love one another. We're like porcupines living in a cactus farm, learning to hug one another. You can bet there will be some disappointment, frustration, and even anger at times. But it will all be worth it. Because when you look back on your college years, you won't reminisce on your GPA or your intramural championship shirts or your Instagram likes, but you'll remember a friend who loves at all times and a brother who's born for adversity. I hope you find that friend, and more than that, I hope you be that friend. I've been incredibly blessed to have been a part of RUF for the past 5 years, and I would love nothing more than for you to experience the same.
Hey everybody, so good to be with you tonight at our final large group of this semester. So happy that you're able to hear all these senior speeches and you'll get to hear all these interns get to talk. It's a really special night and we really hope that you're able to enjoy it as much as we can in this time. Before we jump into the passage, I did want to say just a quick couple words just for you guys as my little short senior speech in a sense. But I am just so thankful for every single one of you in all the ways that God has used you in my life to learn and to grow and to just have this wonderful experience as an intern at NC State in Meredith. I am utterly grateful and I will always remember every single one of you and have just fond memories in my mind. Of all the fun times we've had in the past. If I had to pick a favorite moment of this internship, it was probably the week that we were in London. It was one of the most stretching experiences I've ever had, and it was one of the most fun experiences I've had. And I learned so much about other world religions, so much about this group and about each other and other RUFs and how they all function differently. And though summer conference always has a great place in my heart, I can proudly say that I've gone to Sukkot 7 years in a row, and I think I was looking forward to year number 8, but I think 7 is a little bit more of a appropriate number. So anyways, a word of encouragement to every single one of you, that if I had to give any kind of parting remarks, is that you would just love one another, that you would love this group well, that you would be able to find that love within community, that you would trust one another, that you would open up to each other, and that you would find a home here. I do implore that you seek out that community, that you don't just wait for it to come to you, but so if you are new, that you would make the effort to get to know some people, but that if you have been here a long time, there's people starving for that kind of community that you experience all the time. And I would love to see all of you reach out in that way, in a mutual manner, and to bring new people in and to welcome them and to love on each other as well as I've seen you love on each other in the past. So, yeah, those are my words. That you would love God, love one another. I think those are the best ways that I could sum up my experience here at RUF and at NC State. So there's a lot more I want to say, but we'll just have to have individual conversations to get through all of that. So.
Hey guys, goodbyes are not really my thing, and I'm really uncomfortable on camera, but that's okay. And I'm probably feeling even more uncomfortable right now as you're watching, but you guys mean a lot to me, and this internship has meant a lot to me, so it's definitely an honor to get to say goodbye like this. In case you didn't know, I'm done with this internship. I'm done working here with RUF at the end of May. So I applied to grad school and I'm waiting to hear back. I'll actually hear back on Friday, so keep me in your prayers. I am very anxious to hear about if I get in. But yeah, these past few years have been so great. God's been challenging me to live this life that is so much richer and nobler and better than what I would have wanted. I would have wanted to stay in my comfort zone. But living this life with you has pushed me to build stronger friendships and to become more confident in my hospitality and in my generosity. And to forgive and to listen and to ask for forgiveness. And I've just been pushed so much to see my weakness, and for others to see my weaknesses, and for that to cause me to go back to Jesus and to run to the cross. Yeah, you guys mean the world to me. And I am just always going to cherish this time that I got to spend with you. All these seniors have talked about how valuable and essential this community is, and I just can't echo that enough. RUF is not about making the best memories or finding a gang to just survive college. But RUF is here to help you guys to know and love God more intimately and more personally. And knowing you guys, knowing your joys and your gifts and your struggles and getting to share in your lives has just given me such a deeper view of heaven and an excitement for what heaven's going to be like, and just a greater understanding of God and His love for me and for us, and just how great He is. And I'm sure you guys feel the same way too. As we transition out of the school year and into the summer and into uncertainty and maybe even disappointment, and just things are weird right now. My prayer for you and for me, for all of us, is that in all of the busyness and the beauty and successes and failures and routines and the unforeseen things that are going to come up, my prayer is that we remember that we're not alone. Remember that there is so much more to life than what you can see and what you can feel. Remember that the Lord is with you, and that He's mighty to save. He takes great delight in you. He quiets you with His love, and He rejoices over you with loud singing. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. But thank you so much for everything, and I wish y'all the best. Bye!
Hey everybody, it's me, your intern Connor, at home, obviously. Some of you might not be able to recognize me right now because it's the first time that I've combed my hair in the past 6 weeks, so hold on a second. There, much better. I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes explaining to you guys how thankful I am for you all. It's been a blast being your intern for this year, and I wanted to say that I think early 2020, late 2019 is a time that a lot of us are going to spend looking back on and say, like, where were you when coronavirus hit? Where were you early 2020? And I'm delighted to say, or to be able to look back on this time and to forever be able to say that I spent a year with students at NC State and at Meredith learning a ton from them. You guys welcomed me into your community, which I'm super thankful for. A weird old intern and his wife and his dog. We all love you guys so much. You guys taught us how to have strong Christian community, how to dive in to relationships, into difficult situations, and to really make the most of it. You taught me how to pray hard, how to study my Bible, and to ask really good questions. So I want to thank you for this year and for this great time that I've had. I want to encourage you all to keep it up. If you're a senior and if this is your last RUF large group ever, I encourage you to take all the things that you've learned and bring it into your church community, wherever it is that may be next. And if you're a freshman or a middle classman and this is your first RUF ever, then welcome. We're so glad that you're here. It is not too late to get involved. I went to my first large group less than a year ago. And now I have great friends who I can look back on with fondness, who I hope to keep up with wherever life takes us next. So I hope you all learned as much from me, or even half as much from me, as I've learned from all of you. Thank you so much. You guys mean the world to me, and keep up. So, bye forever.